This is my 10th year as a professional track and field athlete. I just got burnt out. I had to take a pause on training and just allow my body to tell me when it was ready to go again. What motivated me a year ago is not the same thing that's really necessarily motivating me now. I'm 32, and the things that felt so important to me at age 18, it felt like life or death. Now I'm actually having maybe more of an impact than I was then, and having really a lot of fun with this stage of my career. I can make better decisions on my training and my recovery.
Recovery is a way of being in the world for you.
Yes.
But what are the kind of things that you do to just get yourself recentered so you can build on this momentum that you have?
For me, and what I've learned more than anything, it's the nervous system recovery. If you can balance your nervous system, your body will recover on its own.
Yay.
Cool.
Colleen Quigley.
We're here.
I'm so excited to chat with you today. This is like round 2 for us.
I know. I'm really excited to be in person with you. This is
my
great.
gosh. I
Although
know.
we're like so far away.
I know we are really far away. Oh, sweet girl. It's going to be such a fun conversation, I think, for our listeners. We're going to just dive into your data. Gosh, your data is very aspirational. Just a little bit on your background. American Olympian, world record holder in the 4x1500 meter relay prowess, NC2A champion, 9-time All-American, Rio 2016 Olympian, and just an elite track competitor generally. In 2023, you transitioned into triathlon, earning your pro license. You are, I think, probably best known for your steeplechase prowess. For listeners, just explain steeplechase.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because that's kind of like your roots, right?
Yes.
Would you say?
Yeah. So in high school, I did the 1600, 3200. I never did any hurdling in high school. In high school, I could have done the 300 meter hurdles in Missouri, but I never hurdled anything. My college coach saw me running cross country, and she said, I want you to come to Florida State. I'll give you a full ride, and I want you to run the steeplechase. And I was like, okay, but Karen Harvey saw that in me. So the steeplechase is 3,000 meters long. So it's just under 2 miles, 7.5 laps around a track. The caveat is just a small thing is that you have on every lap, you have 4 large wooden barriers that are for women, it's 30 inches tall, 36 inches for men. So you have to hurdle these wooden barriers. They're not like metal sprint hurdles that like fall down if you hit them. They're like horse barriers. They're like big wooden barriers. Yeah. So you have 4 of those on every lap, and then you have 1 of those on the edge of the curve of the track that is actually placed in front of a pit of water that's 12 feet long. So you have to run up to the barrier, you step onto it, launch yourself off of it, and you try and clear the water pit as best, as far as you can. And so you do 1 of those every lap. So over the course of 3,000 meters, you have 28 hurdles and 7 of these water jumps that you have to navigate. So it's like an obstacle course on the track.
It's got to be one of the more demanding. It has to be.
It's crazy. It is a crazy event. Sometimes when I explain it to people, they're like, this sounds made up.
Yeah, no, I know. It doesn't sound real. Yeah.
But it's so fun. And one thing that I love about the steeple is that it really forces you to stay in the moment in the race. You cannot get distracted in this event because there's always an obstacle coming your way. So it really forces you to stay very present and focus on each, one at a time. You don't have your own lane. So you're always navigating these things along with a bunch of other people in your, running under 5-minute pace, going over all these things with all these other people. It's always chaos, but every steeplechase is different. And it's just a really fun event.
What I just genuinely adore so much about you is just your advocacy for mental health and just all the millions of women and girls you inspire daily.
Oh, that's
you
so
are
sweet.
Just putting so many beautiful things out into the world. And for me personally, I've just been continuously inspired by you, as is my daughter. And,
thank you.
So thank you for that.
That's the most important part to me as well.
Yeah. When you think about who you are and I think who you aspire to be in the world, what comes up for you?
Yeah, this is my 10th year as a professional track and field athlete. I graduated from Florida State in 2015, which feels so crazy to say. Yeah, I will brag for a second. After I'm here in Boston now, and then on Thursday I fly to Florida because I'm being inducted into the FSU Hall of Fame this weekend, which is great. 10 years ago, I graduated from there. And so I'm really excited to go back and celebrate the Knolls. And
FSU. I mean,
me too.
I can't really pick favorites, but I'm going to. Yeah. I've worked with the women's softball, women's soccer.
Yeah, the women's soccer team is so badass. Their women's sand volleyball team is so dope.
We work with volleyball.
Yeah.
Sand and kind of regular
And
volleyball.
yeah, indoor. Yeah.
Indoor, yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
big sports school, right? Like being a student athlete at Florida State was really, really fun. I just felt like very supported, very celebrated. And so it'll just be fun to go back. I haven't been back
Congratulations.
in
Yeah.
so long. So it'll just be fun to go back. We get to go to a football game on
Yeah. Yeah.
Saturday, we do the whole thing. But yeah, when I kind of like look back on that time, it's interesting to me. Now I'm 32 and I can be like, wow, like the things that felt so important to me at age 18 or age 22, like felt like life or death, things like going to the Olympics or
Yeah.
winning the NCAA title or winning the Missouri high school state
Yeah.
title,
Yeah.
like these things just like felt so like life or death.
Yeah.
And now like, I'm at the ripe old age of 32. It feels like my kind of area of emphasis or like things that I like lose sleep over have just
Yeah.
like changed so much. Now I can like see things from a different perspective. And I feel like I launched this team this summer, and we can get into all that, but I launched a professional team called Meridia, and I'm kind of
Wow.
like the team mom. I'm the oldest person on the team, and I have
Wow.
the most experience of all these women. And so trying to like do my best to like, I've had all these experiences, and how do I kind of figure out how to make an impact on the sport at this time in my career when I'm not like, I didn't go to the Olympics last year. I'm not really doing the things that I was doing 6 or so years ago, but now I'm actually, having maybe more of an impact than I was then, and having really a lot of fun with like the stage of my career and like
Yeah.
watching that all these things shift along the way.
So tell me more about the training group. Is it
Yeah.
a training group? Sorry, I kind of just
Yes.
assumed that. Yeah.
Yeah, of
Okay.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically I graduated from Florida State University, and I was part of a professional group in Oregon for 6 years that was sponsored by
Wow.
Nike called the
Yeah.
Bowerman Track Club. And I went to the Olympics with them when I was training with them, and made 5 USA teams when I was training there, and had a lot of like success on the track. And then I also had a lot of injuries and a lot of issues with overtraining and just some like kind of unhealthy behaviors that eventually really took their toll on me.
Is that
Um,
is that in part of because of the culture? Like how,
yeah,
because I think overtraining obviously
right.
is preventable, right? Like when you have the
Totally.
right kind of data
Yeah,
and you have the right kind of
definitely
coaching and
like a
culture.
culture thing
Yeah.
where it was, yeah, like it's the rah, just do it when at all costs. I was at a stage of my career where that felt right to me. I was like,
Yeah.
at 23, I was like, yeah, win at all costs. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
that felt
I can
like,
get behind that.
yeah,
Yeah.
that like definitely, I think spoke to me for that period of time. And yeah, going to the Olympics gave me a lot of opportunities. I can't lie. That was something that opened a lot of doors for me and gave me a platform and gave me a lot of opportunities that I'm always grateful for. But then, at a certain point around 2019, 2020 era, the injuries just really were piling up, and like the time between the injuries was getting shorter and shorter, and the joy of it and like the stress of it were just, the ratios were off.
Yeah.
I was
Too many
way too
trade-offs.
stressed,
Yeah.
and injured way too much and unhappy, and like the joyous times of being healthy and training were just too few and far
Yeah.
between to really justify what I was doing. So
Yeah.
it came to a point where, yeah, everything kind of came to a head in 2020, end of 2020. And I ended up, not re-signing with Nike. And I was off into the abyss for a little bit of the unsponsored world of like, where do I go now? Like, how
Yeah.
do I navigate from being like this like Nike girl
Yeah.
to like, what do I
'Cause
do
that becomes a
now?
part of your identity.
It did, yeah, for sure. And
Yeah.
we created a brand within that team called the Bowerman Babes. It was at one
Wow.
point we had 12 women training together, like doing workouts together. That's my best memories of that time, was like being on the track, doing like these epic workouts with all these women who are also Olympians and national champions and,
Wow.
American record holders and all this stuff, and just like
Incredible.
going to work with them every day and
Yeah.
like feeding off that energy of that powerful,
Mm.
tribe of women. Like those are my best memories from that time for sure. But then, yeah, when I left, I was like, okay, that ended up not being the right thing. And so I ended up having the opportunity to sign a contract with Lululemon, and they became my partner for now it's been like 5 years. And that's been incredible. A total
Amazing.
culture shift, like completely
Yeah.
different. Like their whole thing is about celebrating the individual and just saying, whatever you're doing, like we just think you're awesome and we want to get behind that. Like
Yeah.
you're driving the ship here. We're just like supporting you. And at that point I had kind of figured out more about what I care about and like kind of where I want to place my energy around women's health and mental health and
Yeah.
all this stuff. And so they were like, we love that. Like whatever we can do to support, which felt really different than the relationship I had before of like I felt like I was supporting a brand before.
Yeah.
And now I feel like I'm being supported by a brand, which
Yeah.
is really great. And just
And you're
being in
supporting your
partnership.
own authenticity, in terms of
Yeah,
how you show up in the world and,
totally.
just feeling that alignment is
Which is
powerful.
amazing. And then the caveat just being the only downside of that being Lululemon doesn't have their own track and field team.
Yeah.
The way that, a lot of these like more traditional track and field brands like
Yeah.
Nike and New Balance and
Right.
Puma
Right.
and all them, they've been in the sport for a long time. So they have these established teams
Yep.
that they've
That they
hired a
train and they
coach and
tour. Yeah.
they sponsor all the athletes on the
Hmm.
team. And Lululemon doesn't do that. They're kind of coming at it from a different approach of
Yeah.
like picking a few individuals and then they allow each one of those athletes, like you create your team around you. You pick your coach. You pick the people that you surround yourself with
I
and
love
that
that
you
though.
think,
I mean,
is going to set you up for success, which I love.
especially someone like you at the stage you are at in your career,
Mm,
you know what you need around you,
exactly.
and like to be
Totally.
able to choose that is just
Very
ideal,
powerful.
right?
Very powerful. And so, now I work with this badass female coach named Julie
Wow.
Benson.
Wow.
I hadn't worked with a female coach since college, actually. My college
Oh.
coach was Karen Harvey. She was also a badass female coach.
Oh,
And
she's
then
not at Florida State anymore though.
she's not. Yeah, she
Yeah,
actually is not even in coaching
she's got out
anymore.
of coaching. Okay,
She got a little
she's a
jaded by
legend though.
like the male dominated just industry that is the NCAA coaching. And she decided to pivot and do something
Mm.
else. But her time with Florida State and she was at a few different universities was amazing. And
Yeah.
the impact that she made on me was changed my whole life. Like
Mm.
she was the one who said, you're going to run the steeplechase. You're going to be a national champion one day. Like, she saw the vision for me before.
Just those people
I
that
did.
believe in you like that.
Totally. So now working with a female coach again has been almost a year now that I've been working with Julie. And it's been amazing too. Just it's the same, very similar, at least energy that she brings to the situation. So I've really appreciated that. But the one thing I was missing and the reason I formed this group was I missed that feeling of having 10 women around me who were
Just
working
teammates.
towards the same goals and inspiring one another and working hard together and sharing reps in a workout. Like, I would do a workout with maybe 8 times a mile and I only had to lead one of those miles. The rest of the time I'm just running behind and getting pulled along for a ride. So I thought, can I have it all? Can I choose my coach and choose my brand partners and choose my training partners and, be able to like have my cake and eat it too. Like, can I do that? Because right now there's no place in the US where I could go and train and be able to choose all of those things. Usually it's the brand chooses those things for you. So if you partner with a brand, they make those choices for you. And I just thought like, I don't want to make that sacrifice. And so, Meridia is our team
Meridia.
and we
Very
allow the
cool.
athletes to choose their coach and choose their brand partner separately. Like they make those choices on their own and then they come to the group for the community aspect, for the training partners, for the camaraderie to be like, this is my team. And I want the athletes to be able to support themselves, right? Like we have these professional athletes, they don't want to have to go to the effort of like, it's a lot to like, you have to hire people to come film stuff for you. And maybe, maybe you're editing or maybe you have someone edit things or, just like all the work that goes into like telling your story as an athlete, which is honestly one of the main reasons that I was inspired to create a brand around this. Not just like, hey, like let's train together. We don't have to like create a team, like a formal team. We can just like train together or whatever. But I think the biggest thing that I saw that a lot of athletes need support on is like the storytelling.
Right.
And it's harder and harder and more competitive than ever to be able to get contracts with brands that pay your bills. Because as runners, we don't really pay our bills like by racing. We don't, track athletes don't really earn much money at races.
Sponsorships.
The biggest, I ran a Continental Tour Gold Label meet in Beijing, and I was fifth place, and I think I won $800. Like you're not going to make money on the prize money. You make money through sponsorships, and it's harder and harder to get sponsorships now because it's so competitive. What I'm noticing with these pro athletes is they're just like, I just want to do my job, which is like train and run and train and compete well. And all the brand building stuff it's not something that I like really enjoy spending my time on. And I'm an outlier. I kind of I love that part of it. And I see it as like my creative outlet. And I have more energy than I know what to do with. So I'm like, I need to like have
Wow.
something to do when I'm not training, because you can only run like so much out of the
Yeah.
day. But what I've realized is that that's not normal. Like
Mhm.
most people don't want to do that. So then with the team, I thought, okay, maybe this is a gap that I can help fill, where we can take some of that responsibility off the athletes.
Mm.
Like, what if we hire people for the team? Like, we have an intern, we have content creators that we work with who
Wow.
can come to practice and like film the athletes doing what they do,
Yeah.
and then we put everything together so that they don't have to like stress
That's
out about stuff.
amazing.
And I think like we're only a couple months in, but I think the theory is that we help these athletes build stories and brands around them so they don't
Mm.
have to, and then they become more valuable. The team has value as a brand of itself, but each athlete's individual brand also becomes more valuable,
Mhm.
so that when they go back to negotiate at the end of the year with their sponsors, like they can say like, before I was never posting on Instagram and people didn't know what I
Yeah.
was doing all season.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now they can follow along with
Yep.
Team Meridia and kind of become fans of theirs. And so it kind of helps everybody get more exposure.
Yeah.
We're just at the beginning of that. And I'm my own worst critic. We could be doing so much more.
Yeah.
I need to hire more people to be able to help take some of that responsibility to like really amplify these athlete stories, because
Yeah.
they all have incredible stories. They all like come from amazing, everyone has a different way of getting to where we
Wow.
are. Having the opportunity to tell the story,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
There's so
have
many
it be in
paths.
a fun way that feels like they get to own that story, and it's
Mm.
not relying on someone from coming in from the outside to tell their story.
Yeah.
Like, I want them to be able to tell it on their own.
Mm.
So that's like a big mission of ours, and hopefully we'll help them with all this like, all the contract stuff and
Yeah.
branding stuff.
Mm. Gosh, I love it. You have a location that you train out of, right? Yeah.
Based in Boulder.
Okay.
I live in LA, in Venice, and we have an Olympics coming up in LA, in LA
We sure
28,
do. Oh my
if you
God.
guys aren't aware.
Are you
Who knows? I don't even know
Oh.
what to think about LA 28 yet, but I had to, in order to even give myself a chance of thinking about that, I
Yeah.
knew I had to figure this component out
Right.
first.
Totally.
And then we kind of
So you have a foundation that you can
we see if,
at
because
least
I
give
wasn't
a
having
best shot.
fun anymore. And I'm
Yeah.
like, if I'm not having fun by myself doing this in this way, what's the point of trying to go
Yeah.
to another Olympics just to say I'm a 2-time Olympian? Like,
Right.
I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
it has to be something that's fun and feels like I'm doing something. I'm adding
Yeah.
something to the universe, not just like adding another notch on my belt. I
It's
just
such a
like
reflection of your maturity.
don't care
you
about
know,
that
like, yeah.
anymore.
No, it's very
My first thought was LA 28 is coming. I love living and training in LA. I'm going to start a training group in LA. But it turns out I'm the only distance runner who wants to live in LA. So that didn't work.
Damn.
So everyone and, kind of distance running, training at high altitude is really important.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, just living in LA is very expensive and you have to go do training camp somewhere else and whatever. So I didn't want to give up my home base near the beach. That's where my heart is. But the team is based in Boulder. So I go back and forth between the two. I spent the last 6 months from January through July in Boulder with the team. And then the off season, I spend time in LA.
So you have an indoor track you work out of?
The summer
summer
we're
outdoor,
outside.
of course. Yeah. I'm just thinking January.
January
May.
and February and March are kind of tough. And
Yeah.
that's where I'm like, are you guys sure you don't want to be in LA?
I know, seriously.
But we just, it makes you tougher. You figure it out. I grew up in the Midwest, so I'm used to running in snow and all that stuff, or running on treadmills when you need to. So you figure it out. But Boulder is actually, I've loved training there. It's an incredible place. When it's nice out, you run on a different soft surface place every day of the week for 2 weeks straight. Like, the options are just incredible.
Yeah. What kind of training are you doing right now?
Well, right now, so you mentioned triathlon, and I did have a foray into triathlon, and then had a little bit of initial success, and I earned my pro card. But truly, when I reflected on it, it wasn't in my heart to go that route. And I had to just have a moment last summer of like, do I truly want to dedicate myself? It's not a small endeavor, it's not a thing I take lightly to say, I want to try and go to the Olympics in the triathlon and train for these 3 sports every single day for the next 4 years. And it just wasn't in my heart to do it.
Yeah.
So I came back to my track world, and that's when I decided, okay, if I'm going to come back to track, I got to do things differently. And so that's when I decided to create the team.
Okay. Amazing. So are you focused on relay? Are you doing,
So, kind of funny you mentioned relay. There's not that many opportunities to do relays in
Yeah.
track and field.
Relay is so fun.
It's so fun.
Oh.
And there actually is a crazy opportunity coming up to
Oh
do
my
a
gosh,
relay.
that's
So
amazing.
I'm going to tell you about it.
Oh my God.
So I just finished my
Yes.
track season. I did a month of 1500s, miles, and a couple 3Ks. I was
Wow.
in Raleigh, North Carolina, and then I went to Leuven, Belgium. Then I raced in London. Then I went to Scotland, and then I went to Beijing. So I did 5 races in 5 different countries, and it was so fun. And
Oh
it
my
was,
gosh.
all flat races, no steeplechases
So do you
this
take a
year.
roster? Is it like 6 and you pick 4 on the day? How does that work?
So it's still an individual sport. So everyone's
Okay.
creates their own racing schedule, and they
Oh,
can
okay.
do whatever they want. So
Okay, got it.
we had 4 athletes that 4 of our women from Meridia were all doing different races in Leuven.
Okay.
But then some of them went to, like, Katie went to Finland for one of her races. Maddie and Katie went to
So you're not traveling all
Brussels.
together for all
We
these events?
sometimes travel together.
Yeah.
Like 4 of us were in Leuven together and spent a week in Leuven together in Belgium, which
super
was
fun.
so fun. Like just
Yeah.
running around with your friends, eating
Oh my
croissants.
God,
Like it was
yeah.
just the best. But then it is, at the end of the day, it's an
Yeah.
individual sport. So sometimes we break off and
Okay,
like do
gotcha.
our own races.
Yeah.
And most of them had been racing earlier in the year.
Mhm.
And I kind of had a couple hiccups with my health earlier this year. Right when we launched the team, I got a little stressed out, and I was
Yeah.
just burning the candle on both ends.
Yeah.
And so I had to take a little pause in my training
Yeah.
for a few weeks, and I didn't race for the month of like June. So I ended up kind of like racing later in the season
Okay.
than everyone else. So it comes back to like, yeah, it is an individual sport. You get to make those choices about what's best for you as an individual.
Yeah.
But I ended my season about a week ago, and I take a little break here. And then a few of us are gearing up for cross-country nationals. So kind of weird, but you can do indoor track, outdoor track, and cross country as a distance runner. There
Wow.
are very few opportunities to run cross as a professional runner. It's usually more in the NCAA. So I
Yeah.
did cross country all throughout college.
Okay. Yeah.
And have done one cross country race as a professional, like in 2016, and haven't done any cross since then.
Wow.
But
That's a fun community.
there's a World Cross Country Championships that are happening this year in January of 2026. And they're being hosted in Tallahassee, where I went to school. So I was like,
wow.
I gotta try and make the team. Like
That's
I gotta
awesome.
try and go. And
How many people did they take?
well, usually it's a 10K for men and women
Right.
over grass, which is my ideal distance is like 3K. So 10K is a bit
That's a lot.
bit
Yeah.
long for me.
Yeah.
But this is the second time that they're hosting a 4x2K relay, mixed gender relay in cross country, which is crazy. So they're going to have a 2K loop. 4 athletes, 2 men and 2 women from each country form a team together, and they do it as a relay. So I think
Okay,
you
you
can
need to do that.
I know. Yeah.
That sounds epic.
That's what I'm going to try and do. And
Oh
so
my
the
God.
trials for that are they pick the team at US Cross Champs, which is in December.
Okay, so the
in
U.S. governing
Portland.
body is going to put together teams.
So yes, the way they do it. So they've only done the 4x2K relay one other time at World Champs, and since it was such a new event, they actually USA Track and Field as a national governing body, they just chose the team. They like selected the team and they gave an invitation to 4 athletes to like do it.
Okay.
I can't even remember who did it. It was 2 years ago, but now it's becoming more popular and more people want to do it, and so they're making it a more formal like tryout situation.
Right.
So in December they'll host U.S. Cross Country Nationals, and they'll have a 10K race for anyone who wants to make the 10K team.
Yep.
And they'll send, I think they send 7 athletes is usually like a full team for cross
Okay.
country. They'll have everyone who wants to do that lines up. They do a 10K. They pick the top 7 people. They'll go, and they're the 10K team. And then they'll have a separate race that is a 2K.
Okay.
And anyone who wants to make the 4x2K team, they all race,
Wow.
and they'll pick
And
the top 2 women and the top 2 men, and then they'll form the 4x2K relay
Oh,
team that gets to
man.
go to Worlds.
Gosh, good luck.
So it's going to be very competitive. There's
Yeah.
a lot of people that want to do this because it's so fun. And
Yeah,
there's not that many opportunities to do relays. On the track, if you're a sprinter, you got the 4x1, you got the 4x4, you got mixed gender 4x4. Like there's way more opportunities to do
The training for
relays.
that too is going to be is so fun.
It'll be
too.
fun. Yeah, I
I
think
don't
we'll
know.
do
I
some
think
like
some of those,
workouts
like,
over
bigger
grass and
distances,
stuff.
yeah,
It'll
yeah.
be really fun. So I'm excited for that. So in November, I'll go to just spectate at the New York City Marathon. New York City
Mm.
Marathon weekend in New York is just always such a vibe.
It's
And so
inspiring.
I'll go
Yeah.
there, cheer on a bunch of people,
Good
and
for
then
the
I'll go
spirit to be around
straight.
those
Yep. And then
as
I'll
a
be super
spectator.
inspired, and then I'll go straight to training camp in Boulder, spend the next month preparing for cross nationals,
Wow.
and then December 6th in
So you'll
Portland. we do
basically,
that.
so huge advantage going from altitude
Yes.
down to sea level,
Yeah.
which is Tallahassee.
Yes.
So that should be
Yes.
good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of people do high
Will
altitude
do.
because
Yeah.
it's basically like legal blood doping,
Yeah,
right? Like
exactly.
you come down and your blood
Your
is
red
just
blood
way
cells.
better at carrying oxygen to your
Mhm.
muscles when you're using it, so you don't get tired as fast,
Right.
and you can like perform for like longer
Mhm.
periods of time. So yeah,
In January, it shouldn't be too humid down there, and
I think January
you know,
in Tallahassee will be
yeah, it's going to be
perfect.
perfect running
Yeah.
conditions.
The hard part will actually be the US national champs in December are in Portland, and it's going to be very muddy and probably
Yeah.
chilly, cold, rainy,
Yeah.
gross.
I mean, you lived
So
in Portland.
I did.
That's
Yeah.
tough stuff up
Yeah.
there.
Not quite looking forward to that
I
part,
mean, at
but
least
it's
like
a
in the
necessary
Northeast, you
evil
have
to get to the
sun.
world champs. You have to
Yeah,
get
yeah.
through Portland.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
anyway, that's kind of like what I'm gearing up for right now.
Is motivation, does it come easy to you? Like,
N-
you know, do you just
Not
get up
all
and
the
go and like,
time.
woo, I'm going to run
Yeah,
12
sometimes
400s today?
I find like momentum is really important. Like
Mm.
sometimes when I have really good momentum, it's just everything is flowing. But if something happens to like knock you off your momentum and you feel like sometimes you get through these
Yeah.
stages where like every day kind of feels like a bit of a grind and you're like
Yeah.
having to kind of force yourself or like trick yourself into doing like what you know you need to do. But I've always found that like that's a period of time and like it's not going to last forever. And then there'll be other times where, everything, you just catch this wind and all of a sudden you're snowballing, like in a good way,
Mm.
like snowballing, and you're just growing momentum week by week and everything's going great. Allowing the motivation to be different depending
Mm.
on what's going on in your life. What motivated me a year ago is not the same thing that's really necessarily motivating me now.
Yeah.
And so allowing that, and that's normal and natural as you're changing. What motivated me in 2015, doesn't really motivate me anymore. And that's
Yeah.
like, I think that's totally normal. I think that happens to
Totally.
everyone.
We should evolve and shift. And
Yeah.
how do you use data? And, you know, I was just thinking about, you know, the time frame of like post Olympics where you started, you know, really injuries started piling up.
Mhm.
And it's my perception that an environment like that, who
Yeah.
has access to so many resources, athletes should not be in a situation where they're
Totally.
overtraining. You
Yeah.
know, like I just feel like I wonder like how has technology
Yeah.
evolved for you? You know,
Yeah.
kind of where was it then? What were they measuring and kind of
Mhm.
how has that evolved over time? You know,
Well, I'm
of course,
laughing
I'm
because
just
like, what were they measuring? Literally nothing. We were
okay.
not
That just
measuring
blows
anything.
my mind. I mean, you've
which
got
is crazy.
Oregon, Nike. I mean, I don't even know how much
No,
that
we
guy
weren't.
just donated, $1 billion,
Yeah.
and presumably have access to.
Measuring nothing. I was working with, and I'm not here to like,
Yeah.
shit on anyone,
Yeah.
but just really old school approach of just like, it felt like even just like my workout paces, like doing like workouts that are supposed to be like tempo or threshold, but the paces are just kind of made
Set
up.
at
Yeah,
there's
like
no rhyme or reason.
everyone from Shalane Flanagan, who's the New York City Marathon winner, to Kate Grace, who's an Olympian in 800 meters, to myself, who's running a 3K steeplechase, someone else who's doing a 5K. Like we're all doing quote unquote threshold pace at the same pace, 5:20 pace. And that's just it's not possible that we could all be at threshold for like
Yeah.
all these different types of bodies, all these different types of energy
Right.
systems, all these different strengths and
Has that
weaknesses,
evolved
athletes.
since then?
I mean, again, I'm not here to shit on anyone, but I left that situation, but that
Yeah.
has not changed. I
That's just
changed.
wild to
I
me.
did change. I don't
Yeah.
do it that way anymore. But that situation has not changed, which, in 2025, with all the access to all the information, all the data that we have, is kind of mind-blowing.
I will say, you know, I'm inside a lot of these high performance environments, you know,
Yeah.
professional and collegiate, and I marvel at how unsophisticated
Yeah.
they actually are
Yeah.
at monitoring some of
Well,
these very basic things
yeah.
that could actually yield not
Huge
marginal
impact.
gains, right?
Yeah.
Like we're talking massive impact.
Yeah, and actually my little foray into triathlon was really interesting because one thing I noticed about triathlon as a sport more generally is that they're much more data-based. Like
Yeah.
they really do use a lot more data. They use different like numbers to kind of calculate how much stress on the body for it because they have these three different
Right.
sports. And so overtraining for triathlon is like it's easy to do.
Yeah.
Especially because two of your sports are non-impact. Like you can
Right.
do them all day without any like bone stress injuries. Like
Right.
with running, you're limited kind of
Yes.
in
Yeah.
that way. With these other sports, you're just like, if you eat enough, like you can just be like working out all day, which
Right.
for a while was like kind of fun. I was like, oh, this is like, I love working out. I can just work out all day.
Yeah.
But it's easy to overtrain with triathlon. So they're much more data driven as a sport in general, I found. And my coach that I was working with in triathlon was used a lot more data than any running coach I was using.
Triathlon very impressive. I interviewed Laura Phillips.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, she was really fun to talk to, but the amount of data that those guys, I just, whoa, okay.
And I think track could like learn a lesson from that. And I think we're kind of learning, like we're learning more. I would say in the past few years, there's been a shift to use fueling more efficiently.
Yeah.
Because even back in the day, I'd be doing, an hour and 45-minute long run off nothing, no water, no calories. And now I would never. Like I
was
would
that by
never
design?
It's just no one did it. It was a culture thing. No one on the team.
So just training fasted was really kind of.
And yeah, I mean, we wouldn't even talk about it. Like we wouldn't even use the term training fasted. We would never use that term. Like you'd have breakfast and then you go do your long run. And it was almost like, it kind of seems weird to say, but it felt to me, this is my perception of it, is that it felt like if you needed that, it was like a weakness that you needed to have a gel during your 90-minute run. And like, maybe no one thought less of me, but I feel like it was like
unsaid
that like, oh, like you need a gel, like it was some kind of weakness, which now I see completely different. And I'm like, no, you're smart. You're not only do you need it to get through that run and feel really good and have the best like long run possible and get the most out of yourself during that run, but now I see it as, oh, I'm doing the fueling during my workout or during my run, during my session in order to recover better.
Yeah.
In order to show up the next day feeling better. And that workout on empty.
Yeah.
It's so hard to fill your tank back up, right? If you're thinking about yourself like a car versus like if you still were, working really hard and you might end the workout on a quarter of a tank. That's even better. That's better than finishing on empty.
Yeah.
And you'll recover faster and be able to like top back up to 100% easier. And so now I just think about it totally different. And we're getting there. I think we're shifting, more to like this type of thing, but I think there's still a lot of room for improvement, and it's just like low hanging fruit. You're like, this is like easy stuff.
Yeah, this is like just the basics. Did you and some of your teammates like did you have regular cycles?
Yeah, I luckily have only had one time in my career where I lost my cycle one summer for about 2 or 3 months. But I did talk to a dietitian right after because that had never happened to me before, and I was like, this is kind of concerning. And so I went back and kind of did like a food log, and we just kind of noticed, okay, you were running like 80, 85 miles a week and training at high altitude again and just doing all these really intense workouts. And both my calories as well as my fat intake were kind of, not sufficient. And so I was getting into that red S, unintentional red S overtraining, under fueling.
Relative energy deficiency syndrome.
Yep. Exactly. So I didn't realize I was doing it at the time. And I think that's one thing that we don't talk about enough is that you don't have to have an eating disorder, full-on eating disorder in order to experience red S.
There's these subclinical levels that are actually really problematic that lead to all sorts of illness, injury, And
it can be unintentional, or you can be kind of at that level. Like I've gone through times where I was injured, where I was being way too kind of careful and cautious and really not wanting to like gain weight and get out of shape because I wasn't running. I was just cross training, but I'd be cross training for 2-3 hours a day. And then my body's also burning calories trying to heal and trying to get better from this injury, and then not giving it the fuel it needs to do all that cross training plus recover.
Yeah.
And I didn't lose my period at that time, but that's also, it's only one indicator, right? I also wasn't healing very fast from my injuries. So, I clearly wasn't giving my body what it needed to recover.
That's what I'm so excited for this advanced labs feature that's coming online, because we'll be in, I think, a position for the first time in kind of history to be able to look at these kind of subclinical moments where, before you lose your period, before, like creating models that help us understand when someone might be at risk. You can imagine.
Let's catch it early.
You can imagine we have all this blood data, we have all the physiological longitudinal data, and we have the period data. And we can see someone, okay, they have lost their period. What are the things that happen? What can we see from the blood data? What can we see from the physiological data that predict that?
Yep.
Just to help
Totally.
people stay ahead, you know?
Well, also I'm thinking about people who, so I have copper IUD that
Yeah.
allows me to naturally cycle, but I'm thinking
Mm.
about the
Do you
people
have
who
a
are,
heavier bleed with that?
I do, and
Yeah.
it
I
was
know for
really bad
younger
for the
women.
first like few months, and
Yeah.
then it kind of normalized,
Oh,
and
good.
now it's kind of like I've had it for like a few years now, so I'm almost
Oh,
like it's
wow.
hard to remember. Is it now any heavier than it was? It feels like
Yeah.
it's kind of normal now,
Mm.
so I don't really notice. But the
Yeah,
first
that's
few
good.
months were tough.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking about people who, because I know so many athletes who don't cycle naturally,
Mhm.
like they're using birth
Yep.
control for whatever
Yeah,
reason.
so
There's
they
like a
don't have
lot of
that signal.
reasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I wonder if since they can't really rely on that as a signal, they're relying more on these
Mhm.
like other markers
Yep.
to help be a warning sign.
Yeah, I think so. You know, I think when you start looking at, testosterone and estradiol and estrogen and again, I think the time points we're gonna really educate members on when is the
Hmm.
best time to take these
Yes.
labs, so we can have the right kind of data to be able to coach folks
Yeah.
properly.
Because like if
But
you do it at the in the first week of your cycle versus the third, you're gonna have
very
different.
different
Yeah.
outlook, right? That I think could lead us in the wrong direction, or
Yeah.
lead the member in the wrong direction. So
Hmm.
yeah, I think all of that is going to be really important data to
Yeah.
make sure that we have,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
recently got blood work done actually this summer, and the recommendation was like I think it was like day 5 and like day 15. So
okay.
I got it done twice.
Okay, good. Yeah, yeah.
I wonder if that was to help with that.
Yep. You should be at a certain level on day 5
Mhm.
and you should be at
Mhm.
certain levels on day 15. So it's just being able to see, are those levels normal
Yep.
based on where you should be,
Yep.
in your cycle.
Yep.
I think especially for women,
Mm.
I think there's a lot of things we can learn for women who are on birth control,
Yep.
hormonal birth control, who are on these other forms of birth control. What is better?
Yeah.
You know what? And again, every woman is individual and has personal reasons for making various choices, but at least we can tell a woman what you might need leaving on the table and where you might need to, adjust levels, to kind of get yourself to a place where
Mhm.
you're not compromising your bone
Mhm.
density, for example, or,
Mhm.
like there's certain things that I think uh, come at a cost,
Yeah.
of anything exogenous, you're kind of putting any hormones you're putting in your body.
Totally. Yeah, and for elite athletes, it's a extra level of like I might have a race at this time,
Yeah.
time in my cycle, or I want to perform really well, or maybe optimizing the training around that
Yep.
time, around your cycle so that you're not putting yourself in a high risk situation
Yep.
to like tear an ACL or
Yeah.
whatever. Some things you do have control over in terms of like workouts, and then sometimes you don't have control
Yeah.
over. Like the Olympics are when the Olympics are, and the
Yeah.
dates
Yeah.
are not going to change.
Right.
But how do you support yourself leading up to that and give yourself like the best shot of being really prepared for that
Yeah.
based on it's just a little more complicated
Yeah.
than, a male athlete is just
I know. Damn them.
steady Eddie over
I
here.
know.
But yeah, we have like a little extra work to do in
Yeah.
terms of like optimizing. But that's definitely an area that in the past few years I've leaned into and have been learning more about, and feel that the more I learn, the more I'm like, oh my God, there's like so much more that I could be
I know.
doing.
Yeah.
Especially as I get older
Yeah.
and
What
noticing.
have been your big learnings?
Yeah, well, just noticing that the biggest thing was like there's still this misnomer that that you don't perform well or that you don't want to have your race during your period.
Oh,
And the biggest thing that I learned was like,
I
actually,
know.
it's the week before your period
Yeah.
that you need to be like kind
Yeah.
of the most cautious of, or
Yeah.
like would be the least optimal
Yeah.
time would be like the week leading up to your period.
Mhm.
And, if you can like manage any cramping or like
Mhm.
symptoms, the week of your period is actually a great time to
Oh
race.
my
And
God.
it's
Yeah.
like that when I learned that, definitely like blew my mind.
Were you able to look back on races and kind of actually see
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yes. And now I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, the week before is always when like little issues pop up,
Yeah.
when I have little issues with my body that I'm not like, it's not a full on injury,
Mm.
but it's like just something that's kind of bugging me.
Mm.
And when I look at like the pattern of that, it's like, oh, that always happens the week before I start my period.
Yeah.
And so now I'm way more cautious of that week. And if I'm going to have a down week in my training anyway, why wouldn't I just line that up with the week before my cycle starts so I'm not hitting the most important workout of that month
Yeah.
during that week? Like
Yeah.
that's
So
just, I'm
smart.
not setting myself up for success there.
Mm.
And that's something my coach has noticed too, that we're like, okay, this seems, it's a pattern. And you
Mm.
can, once you have the data and you can look at like I'm pretty good about journaling and I always
Yeah.
log my period in the
Yeah.
period tracker. Then you can look look back on
Yeah.
things and be like, oh yeah, there's like a pattern here.
Yep.
Like we can just tweak some things and make some like, again, like low hanging fruit changes to just timing.
Mm-hmm. Colleen, your data is just
apparently very impressive. Everyone keeps like telling me my data is really good. I'm like, okay, yay.
It's impressive. I mean, you are an Olympic level track athlete. So there's that.
Well, some of it is genes. Yeah, my mom's big into cycling. She just came off of a 7-day cycling trip with all her friends do every year. They do a 7-day cycling trip where they ride like 50 miles a day on their bikes. And like, yeah. So part of it is good genes, but then also training.
We might need to.
I got to dig into mom's numbers too.
Yeah, we might need to interview Mama Quigley. What's her handle?
Yeah. I think she's Anna M. Quigley.
Okay. Oh my God. Wow, that is so impressive. So just to be clear, your whoop age is 14 years younger than your chronological age. When you think about just that number generally, like, what's your perspective on just this concept of health span?
Yeah, well, it was really inspiring and like motivating for me to see that number when it came out, because I'm at this stage in my career. I'm 32 and I'm competing against women who are much younger than me. And I feel this year specifically, I like felt that. I was like, I kind of feel old at this point in my sport, which, I'm like 32 is not that old, but I'm competing against women who are 19 or 20 or 25. And I feel like older than them. But when I saw that number, it was really empowering. I was like, oh, hell yeah, I still got this.
Like the number is literally just a number,
Yeah. It really like gave me a lot of confidence, weirdly, like to see that number. I was like, oh, like I can compete against women who are younger than me. Like my body is telling me it's still got it. So that was really cool to see.
I think it's one of those things where if you do certain things, which basically that laundry list of stuff we track in healthspan or that we use to give you kind of a healthspan. And your
red light blocking glasses,
your
or blue light blocking glasses.
Your VO2 max, sleep consistency, sleep duration, time in zone 4 and 5, time in zone 2 and 3, steps, like all of those things. Yeah, you can just figure out, all right, what lever do I want to like focus on, right? And knowing if I focus on those things, I can like move this number.
Yeah, totally.
It's
one thing
cool.
I noticed on there is that I usually don't bother tracking my weightlifting, and I probably should, but I like usually don't even
your
go
strength
in
training
there
minutes.
my strength training. And that was one thing that it said in healthspan was that was hurting me, was that because we didn't know.
I know, I started like entering mine in too.
I'm like, oh shoot, I gotta put it in there. I gotta get credit for my strength training. But that was interesting that it's a big factor, right? In your aging, pace of aging number, like strength training really makes a big difference.
Yeah. And you probably, when you look at the proportion of your training, you're probably obviously running way more than you are lifting.
Yeah, I lift like twice a week. But I should be putting it in there so that I get credit for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because usually I just like, I go on a run and then then I go and lift.
Yep.
So I usually run. It just depends on what type of running I'm doing. But generally speaking, like I usually prioritize my running.
Same.
And I lift afterwards. But like it would just be like one long, like, oh, you worked out for an hour and 45 minutes. But 45 minutes of that was strength training and like an hour was running. But
it was interesting to see though that is such a big factor.
Yeah, I mean it is.
It surprised me, but I get the data must show that that's an important factor.
The quality of your muscle tissue is so correlated with longevity, right? And insulin sensitivity and all of these really big, like when you think of like the 12 chronic diseases, right? Like the more muscled you are, the less vulnerable you are to any of those diseases. So it is a very, very powerful lever. Yeah. I think women especially to lift, I think is just so important.
Yeah. Even my little sister was a professional dancer for quite a few years. And this year she transitioned out of that and is not doing it anymore. And I was FaceTiming her earlier this summer and I was like, Erin, you are looking cut. Like what is I mean, she usually looks, very long and lean and like dancer
graceful,
body. But her like arms were like, I was like, girl, like, what have you been doing? And she's like, oh, really? Thanks. I've been lifting weights. And she's like, I've been like loving it. I go to the Y like a few times, like, I don't know, she's like 4 or 5 times a week. She's like really getting into strength training.
Wow.
And she's like, I noticed that like my back and neck pain like disappear when I'm consistent about strength training. And she's like, I also just like feel really good. Like my body feels really good. And I was like, well, you look amazing. I don't know how you feel.
I know.
But it's really cool to see her get into it because I think it is hard sometimes it seems like for women to be able to feel comfortable getting into the gym and like owning that space. And it's never been a space that she's felt super comfortable in.
Yeah.
But she's noticing the difference in her body and like how she feels in her body and stuff. So I just, every time I hear a story like that, I get so
I love
excited.
it. How old is she?
She's 3 years younger than me, so she's
Oh,
29.
29.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been thinking, well, I just finished writing a book and
Amazing.
yeah. A big feature of the book is just this idea that, strength training really is for everyone,
Yeah.
and I think especially women, as we transition to perimenopause and menopause, and you can just mitigate so many of those symptoms, so much of that pain
Yeah.
just by having quality muscle tissue.
Yeah. Isn't
It's
that
like
empowering? Like you
it's
have the power to
you do.
change how you feel.
Yes.
It's not,
Yes.
you don't have to feel
You
like this is
don't
happening to you. Like you
yeah.
can cause and effect.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, declines in estrogen are real, right?
Right.
And I'm not dismissing the realities of that, right? But strength training can offset so many of the deleterious effects
Mhm.
associated,
Yeah.
with a decline in estrogen, and
Yeah.
so anyway, I just feel like there's so much hope,
And hopefully that's really empowering
Yeah, it does
for
require
women
some
to
work
hear.
though, women just got to get behind it and we got to
Mhm.
support each other and
And
create
make the time
communities.
for it in your busy, busy lives and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Hearing you talk and just the things I observe,
Yeah.
recovery is a way of being in the world for you.
Yes.
And it's funny because I think the women I talk to, the folks I talk to, in this in these conversations, like it
Yeah.
just seems like they've arrived at that place where
Mm.
recovery is essential.
Mhm.
It's a non-negotiable.
Mhm.
So what are the kind of things that you do to just get yourself recentered so you can build on this momentum that you
Yeah.
have?
Well, yeah. So this summer we launched Meridia on
Mm,
June 4th. And right around that time, I was just overcooked. I
yeah.
was trying to do so much for the team and like building the team and putting it together was taking so much out of me more than I like kind of
Yeah.
expected.
Emotionally too, probably,
Emotionally more than
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
And then I was also burning the candle over here trying to train and get myself back at an elite level
Yeah.
so that my health and my performance is good for the team as
Mm.
well, right? So I'm like trying to do both. Yeah, I just got kind of like burnt out. And so
Yeah.
I had to take a pause on I had to like kind of take a couple weeks off
Mhm.
of training and just allow my body to tell me when it was like ready to go again.
Wow.
And one thing I did during that time was I took a Saturday and I went on a like long hike up
Mhm.
Boulder Canyon. Is a beautiful hike, and if you're ever in Boulder,
Yeah.
you like hike along this river the whole time up Boulder Canyon.
Mm.
I bought some snacks and water and a journal with me, and I sat down at one point. The water's like running. I like kind of climbed up like off the side of a trail onto a rock and I just like hung out for a little while and just like got things out of my head onto
Mm.
paper. I listened to music. I was talking to myself for a while and I turned my phone off for the whole
Oh,
time. I just turned
nice.
my phone off before I left the house and I had this like whole day to myself to kind of
Mm.
just like sort some things out.
Yeah.
And I came back from that and I was like, I think I need to have, so I called it No Phone Saturday. And I was like, I
Yeah.
think I need to do a weekly No Phone Saturday
Wow.
where I
Yeah.
don't do any work. I just got to the point where I was like working on team stuff
Yeah.
every moment that I wasn't
I
like
know. I know.
working
You just
out.
end up 7 days a
And
week.
I was
Yeah.
working, yeah, I was like working
I
7
know.
days a week.
I
And
know.
I
I'm the
was like,
same.
I am headed quickly towards a point
Yeah.
of burnout. Like I'm there already. And then we
Yeah.
just launched. I'm like already burnt myself out. I'm like,
Yeah.
shoot. So I kind of fell off of it when I was traveling in Europe and racing and stuff. I didn't really do it. And so this past Saturday, I got home on Sunday and I had to catch up on things during the week.
Yeah.
And then on Saturday, I turned my phone off and I had No Phone Saturday. And I went to the market with
Mm.
Kevin and the dogs, my
Oh.
partner, and we spent the morning gardening in the garden.
Yeah.
And then we sat on the beach and watched the sunset and just like had a day without the
Mm.
phone. And that's really like become a really important thing for me that I need to make sure I like continue
I love
to have
that.
No Phone Saturday
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
like reset every week. Also, like a break from screens is
I know.
really, really good for us. So
Yeah. It is
that's something I'm
amazing.
like preaching to people now is like,
Yeah.
No Phone Saturday, like do it with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I can definitely get behind that. Now that I finished the book, I've been like trying to be, all
Yeah.
right, have at least one day,
One day a week.
yeah, where I'm
Yeah.
not like on my laptop
Totally.
analyzing data or, whatever.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
actually my partner Kevin taught me that because he started a company a few years ago and I think early on he
Mm.
realized that in himself. He saw
Yeah.
that himself too, that he was working all weekend.
Yeah.
It's sometimes it's Saturday, sometimes it's Sunday, but he takes one day on the weekend.
Mm.
He works one day of the weekend
Yeah.
and he doesn't do any work on one
Mhm.
day of the
Yeah.
weekend. And so, yeah, I kind of took that, out of his playbook and I was like, I think he's onto
He's
something
onto
here.
something here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think for a lot of us, like, I don't mind working.
I
Like
love it.
I
Yeah.
same. Like I absolutely love what I do,
Yeah.
and I don't. But I
Mhm.
think it does. Looking at screens, I think comes at a cost,
Yes.
and I think we see it show up.
Yeah, and I think
And
I
yeah,
wasn't being as productive
yeah,
either.
yeah.
Like I would
You lose your edge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was, like, working a lot, but then not
Hmm.
producing as much as I
Yeah.
feel like I should
Yeah. You're just
have.
not as clear minded.
Yes.
When you take that time away and you get into nature, especially,
Yeah. Like, reground myself anytime I'm, like, in the
yeah.
sand, near
Hmm.
the ocean, reground myself,
Yeah.
or, barefoot in grass or barefoot in
Yes.
dirt,
Yeah.
hands in dirt, gardening, like,
Yeah. Just being
anything.
close to the earth in any way that you can. I do think that
Exactly.
is the most powerful recovery modality is just
Yeah.
nature.
Yeah.
I do like every single day I try to get nature, whether it's
Yeah.
just taking my dog on a walk on the
The
trail.
dogs are so good for
I
that.
mean, they're so damn
Force
happy. I mean, my
forcing you to
dog,
get
I'm just
out at
like,
least once a day
I
for a
know.
walk, and I never
Yeah.
have my phone when I walk the dog, so
Yeah.
that's also a good time to, like, be
Yeah.
present. Yeah, that's, like, the biggest I feel like the biggest, like, recovery thing. I mean, all the other things are great, don't get me wrong. The
Yeah.
Normatec recovery boots, the
Right.
hot
Right. Of
cold
course.
therapy,
Yes.
like,
Yes.
all the, like, physical, getting massages, all those things. But for me, what I've learned more than anything, it's the nervous system recovery that if you can balance your nervous system, your body will recover on its own.
Yeah.
It will do what it needs to do on its own.
Amen.
But if you're like just stuck in fight or flight all the
Yeah.
time, you can't heal. You can't recover when you're
Yeah.
in fight or flight. So
Yeah.
if it's like sitting on the beach for 30 minutes is going to put you into rest and digest, like
Hmm.
parasympathetic,
Hmm.
your body will then heal itself. Like
Yeah.
it will, and you can kind of, get away with not doing a
Yeah.
lot of the other things that are very time consuming and like sometimes very expensive as well.
I think that's such a great way to think about like stress is a little bit of an injury to the nervous system. You
Yeah.
just have to, it's not, or maybe injury is like not the right word.
Yeah.
It's a stress on the nervous system,
Yeah.
right?
Stress on the nervous
And you just
system.
have to make sure that you're balancing, with
Mhm.
appropriate amounts of rest, and it's kind of like this constant yin and yang over the
And
course
I
of the
think we
day.
just we have such a hard time. I was just
I
talking to a
know.
friend who's taking like a 2-month sabbatical and she's
Wow.
only like a couple weeks in and she's like, I don't even know how to do this. She's like
I
really
know.
struggling
I
with
know.
the
It's just like, this
rest.
is a lot of downtime.
And I'm like,
No,
go
I know.
sit on the beach for like
I
a
know.
day,
I
do
know.
something. So I think we have the priorities in our culture of like producing and being really
I know.
productive
And we
and
get
like
addicted to that.
doing.
I know.
And yeah, it feels good
It,
to like do and
mm,
we get rewarded for that.
mhm.
We don't really get rewarded very well, for like the recovery part, but it's like we can't do
I know.
without
We'll
the
be better
chill.
at doing if we honor like
Yeah, that's
the
definitely something that
signals.
I've
Yeah.
like tried to lean more into now that I'm like in my later years of my
I
career and
love
like
that.
something I've learned.
Yeah.
So
Well, transferring that wisdom to your team and to your the folks on your platform who follow you. I mean,
yeah,
this is just
exactly.
invaluable. So I just think like athletics in general, like any competitive sport, like that has any sort of technical component, like forces you to be present,
Yeah.
and I think like that's like one of the reasons why it's so health promoted. And of course, like
Mm,
there's cardiovascular and neuromuscular things going on, but like
yes,
just from a mental health perspective, like just being kind of forced to be in the moment, like there's this
totally.
it's I think especially in today's day and age, it's just really hard to not get distracted.
I
There's just
know.
so many things pulling us in so many different directions,
Yep.
and that comes at like a pretty high
I
cost,
know. That's actually why like I love how Whoop doesn't have a screen on it
Yeah.
because we don't need another
Another
thing buzzing
thing.
and beeping. When we're
I
out there
know.
working out, it's like you should just turn your phone. If you have to bring your phone
I
with you,
know.
like turn it on do not disturb.
Mm.
Everyone thinks that my fiance Kevin must be an athlete because I'm an athlete. And I'm like, I mean, he is an athlete because he has a body and he works out,
Yeah.
but he doesn't make money off being an athlete. He
Right.
has
Right.
a different career, but he still, goes out and does runs and workouts and stuff. And he
Mm.
really uses it as like a time to like clear his head and be like, I'm going to go for a 30-minute run. My back is sore from sitting down all day and I just need to like go for a 30-minute run or whatever. And I think he was doing that a lot as just like an easy pace and he would
Mm.
think about stuff. And I was really encouraging him to like a couple, not every time, but like a couple days a week, do like a workout, like do
Yeah.
something where it was really hard so
Mhm.
that you can't be in your head.
Yeah.
Like I think that's really healthy. Like
No.
when you're
Running
working
up
out really
400 flat
hard,
out, like
you can't
yeah.
think about anything
Yeah.
else. You just have to be like so,
Mhm.
dialed into what you're doing. And I think there's just something that's like really beneficial about that. He fought me on it for a bit, but I
Mm.
think it ended up being like like, you don't need to do it every day. But yeah,
Yep.
just to like not think about life and work and all the things
Yeah. Yeah.
for even 30 minutes,
Yeah.
is like, and then you can come back it'll be there when you get back to it.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I get the lovely gift of being able to do that like as my job every
Yeah.
day. And I think the mental health benefits are,
Mhm.
just incredible.
Well, Colleen, this has been
Mm.
such a joy to speak with you. Just so grateful for all the wisdom that you generate and you put out into the world. And like I said
Oh,
at the beginning,
thanks.
like just the role model that you are, to so
Thank
many
you.
of us. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you all for all the work that you do to make
Yeah.
what I do more informed, and I
Mm.
can make better decisions on my training and my recovery because I have this tool. So yeah, I appreciate all the research that you do
Oh,
is incredible,
thank
and
you.
all the advocacy that you do as well. So
Thank you.
happy to be on the team.
Well, you have to keep us posted
Yeah,
on
the
the
relay.
January,
Yeah.
yeah, the relay.
There'll
When
be
are the
plenty of
tryouts?
updates. December is US
Okay.
Cross,
And
December 6th.
you'll post
I'll
about
be
it. So
posting
okay,
all
cool. All
about
right,
it.
all right,
Yeah,
all right.
at
I'll just
Steeple
follow you.
Squigs
Yep.
and
Yep.
at Team Meridia is
Okay,
the
I
where
need
to
to follow
follow
Team
along.
Meridia. Yeah, this is a
Yes.
new one. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
No, thanks for being here.
Cool.